Throughout much of the 1990s, Apple Computer was on the verge of bankruptcy. After the firing of Steve Jobs in 1985, they released a series of quirky products that some of them were somewhat successful, but a lot of them, Apple Newton, were just weird and not received well by many people. Microsoft was absolutely dominating with their DOS and then later Windows operating system, and Apple was really a niche product and an afterthought, an Apple thought, yeah, an Apple thought, exactly. But it was basically a dying company. Then something happened. Around 1997, Apple made a move that shocked the industry. They purchased Next, the company that Steve Jobs had created himself when he left Apple. Now, Next made some pretty amazing products. They were all extremely expensive. They were not intended for ordinary consumers to buy. They were for the education and creative professional market. But they had some really powerful products, but consumers pretty much had no idea about them because they didn't buy them. But Apple buying Next not only brought that creativity and great products that were kind of going under the radar that Next had, but it also bought back Steve Jobs. And that was probably the most critical moment in Apple history, is when Steve Jobs returned, the second coming of Steve Jobs, up until his death in 2010. Apple released products during that time period that pretty much made the Apple that we know today, which is the world's most valuable company. Now, in 1998, with the help of Johnny Ive, he did design a new Macintosh, the iMac, which I actually have right over here. I'll look into that a little bit more in another video. This is actually a slightly newer one. This is a model from the year 2000, but same idea. The clear, translucent, colorful plastic iMac that was very popular. But largely, even though it sold pretty well, it still didn't put a dent in the lead that Microsoft had over Apple in the personal computer industry. Apple needed something completely different that would really shake the world. And in 2001, they did that with this guy. Well, at least an older version of this guy. This is the 2005 Apple iPod Mini. However, the iPod Classic came out in 2001, and that was the digital MP3 music player that was pretty much unlike anything else on the market. There were some other MP3 players, but they were pretty bad. The Diamond Rio was one of them. Look that up. Diamond Rio. It was very expensive, and I believe if you wanted high quality audio, I think it could only hold something like 9 songs. Yeah. The iPod, on the other hand, could hold like 5 gigs of music. So that was really, really revolutionary. So the iPod was pretty much the device that brought Apple back onto the scene and saved the company and allowed them to be what they are today. And it was all thanks to Steve Jobs with the help of Johnny Ive. And we'll forget about that there was a British guy in the 1970s that kind of sketched the idea for an iPod. But that patent expired, and then Steve Jobs pretty much took those patents and used them to design the iPod. We'll forget about that for a second. But yeah, the iPod was a really revolutionary product. Just being able to carry 1,000 songs in your pocket was just unlike anything else, and they were actually stylish. They looked nice. They came in, they were just white originally, but later they came in fun colors. The iPod was originally only compatible with Macintosh computers. It connected with FireWire, but in 2004, I believe, became compatible with all computers. And also, the iTunes Store came out, which kind of revolutionized the way that music was purchased digitally. A lot of resistance to that in the beginning. Artists were worried about piracy and that sort of thing, and they didn't want CDs to be broken up and to be able to buy songs individually. They didn't want to ruin the art of the CD. There's a reason why music is put on a CD in a certain order. And I will say that there is sort of a lost art to that, going in a store and buying CDs. But really, the iPod just revolutionized and made the whole industry of digital music take off. Now, obviously, today, dedicated MP3 players have gone the way of Sony Walkmans and CD players and tape players. Unfortunately, pretty much everyone just uses their phone, except for like super audiophiles who use the Pono player. Does anyone actually use that? But you can say thanks to the iPod for starting the revolution. And here is this iPod, which is an iPod mini from 2005. I got this probably around 2008. It was a hand-me-down from my sister. This, like the original iPods, powered by, the music is stored on an actual little mechanical hard drive inside of here. Great idea, putting a mechanical hard drive with moving parts inside of a device that you're going to run with and shake around. And they did fail a lot of failed hard drives. They're actually to this day, very easy to replace and very cheap. You can replace them with compact flash cards because the little IDE hard drives in here actually use the same pinout as compact flash cards. You can use compact flash to SD adapters and put a high capacity 128 gig SD card in these things. Make them super high capacity. You can install Linux-based operating systems on here, like, Rockbox is one of them. So if you want a different sort of operating system other than the Apple operating system. Although the cool thing is Apple still does keep the operating systems for these iPods, and even the classic original iPods from 2001, they still have the operating system for that on their servers. So you can put a new hard drive on one of these, and if you want to restore it to factory settings the way it was when it would have been new in 2001, you can actually plug one of these into a computer with iTunes, and it'll put the original operating system back on it. So that's pretty cool. But there's just something about the design is just so... There's something so great about it. The click wheel was a great idea. Oh, I love that sound. It really takes me back to being in middle school and study hall and listening to this thing. But, yeah, a lot of fun. I remember the first time I used this instead of using my portable CD player, and it was like worlds better. You didn't have to screw around with all those AA batteries that only lasted like 2 days, and I'm carrying around a whole bag of CDs. I used to carry around a paper bag of CDs. Really awkward. There's something about the iPod that I'll always have a place in my heart for it. I kind of have a small collection of iPods. I have this. This is a second generation iPod Classic I have here. I have one of my favorite touchscreen type iPods was the 6th generation Nano, which is touchscreen. And got your little... One of my coolest things I like about this is you can kind of change the screen orientation by taking your fingers and sort of going like that. So, yeah, there's definitely a place in my heart for iPods. I gotta say, I mostly just keep these as collector's pieces. I rarely use them. But they really... You gotta give a lot of credit to the iPod. It was, first of all, single-handedly almost... Well, there was Microsoft buying $150 million of shares of Apple. That really helped to get them back on their feet. But Steve Jobs coming back and releasing the iPod, a huge factor in Apple being able to come out of the ashes of the 90s and become the giant that they are today. Even if you hate Apple, and there are some reasons to hate Apple, especially the direction they're going with the anti-repair on the part of the customer, everything soldered down and miniaturized. Like the new MacBook Pros, I think they're gorgeous, but yeah, there's a whole problem of having only USB Type-C ports, but everything's just so soldered in, and yeah. But there's still something about Apple, and especially the iPod, that you just have to kind of love. It's one of those products that has become permanently a part of pop culture, future generations, just like we look back at the 80s and some of the things that people in the 80s were obsessed with. The 2000s, I think, will be defined by products like the iPod, and definitely every time I look at one of these, use one of these, it kind of takes me back. Apple does still sell the iPod Touch and an iPod Nano. I don't know for how much longer they're going to do that or if they'll ever update them again. But one thing I'll say is the iPod definitely has a place in history and a place in my heart, at least. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this homage to the iPod. I'll see you in the next one.